Chairperson, yes, you are audible. Morning.
Thank you so much. I have been informed that there might be some hiccups in terms of the system. So with your indulgence, I would just kindly ask that I disconnect my camera just to make sure that I do stay connected at this point in time. A warm welcome to all honourable members and to all officials present this morning, also to our supporting staff. And then, Mr. Davids, can I just confirm, ons het 'n quorum vanoggend?
Chairperson, I'm just going through our list, Chair, but yes, Chair, yes, there is a quorum present, Chairperson. Yes.
Thank you very much for that confirmation. Also, most welcome to the Honourable Speaker as well. I did receive an apology from the Deputy Speaker this morning. Colleagues, we are engaging virtually, and I just need to set out the rules for virtual engagement ahead of us starting this meeting. All members are muted at this point. We just want to make sure that we do not encounter any background noises. Members that need to flag a point of order may do so by raising the raise hand function, or can indicate so in the chat functions of Team. All videos and audio need to be switched off. When a member addresses the meeting, you are most welcome, obviously, to switch on again. And then, in accordance with the directives for sittings of the House and committee meetings by electronic means, as was ATC'd on the 17th of April 2020, Section 8, states that when a member is considered to be out of order by the presiding officer may mute the microphone of such a member and call such a member to order. Honourable members, we have been coming along now with this virtual meetings. I'm sure that you are very much aware, and for us to continue with the meeting in an orderly fashion in order for us to get through our business today. I have welcomed all members. We are aware of the rules of engagement when it comes to virtual meetings. I have tendered the apology of the Deputy Speaker. Are there any other apologies? I do not see any hands. Mr. Davids, just to make double sure, did you receive any?
No, Chairperson.
Thank you.
There is no other apologies. Chair, but I do send off the Secretary, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honourable members and Speaker. Maybe just an apology, Ms. Sunel Fouchier, the Director PEO, is on leave, and Mr. James Retief is in attendance in her stead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. It's duly noted and recorded. Honourable members, our business for today with regards to the Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Wednesday, the 21st of June 2023, as per the agenda, has been circulated to all members concerned, and we will be briefed by the Western Cape Provincial Parliament on the following: the fourth quarterly performance report and financial statements for the 2022-2023 financial year from January until March this year. Also, feedback on any instructions that were issued in terms of Section 37.6 and Section 66.2 of the FAMPLA. We will also then the collaborating activities of PEO with this committee support section on managing inputs received via petitions from the public, including a briefing from the delegation who visited the Scottish Parliament and lessons learned in terms of the management of petitions. Also, honourable members, how PEO plans to enhance public participation in the House and committee meetings for the 2022-2023 and the 2023-2024 financial years, as well as the implementation and management of the enabling allowances against the FAMPLA. and also a briefing by the Parliamentary Monitoring Group on the accessibility of extracting information from its website, including how the WCPP can adopt a similar approach for its website. Honourable members, at this point for the record, I will just ask you to introduce yourselves, members, officials and guests. My name is Wendy Kaiser-Philander and I'm the chair of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee. You may proceed, honourable members.
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. My name is Gillian Bosman and I'm a member of this committee.
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. My name is Khalid Sayed and I'm an alternate member on this committee.
Good morning. My name is Matlodi Maseko. I'm a permanent member to Parliamentary Oversight Committee. Thank you very much, Chair.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Pat Lecker. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Is that all members? We can move over. Honourable Speaker.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Chair Dalen Mitchell. I'm the Speaker of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honourable members. Again, good morning, Speaker and colleagues. My name is Romeo Adams and I'm the Secretary to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament.
Morning, Chair and members. Margot Goldstone, Director, Strategy and Institutional Oversight.
Good morning, Chairperson, members of Parliament, Secretary, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, colleagues. Vernon Titus, Director, Institutional Enablement.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chairperson.
Good morning, Chairperson, colleagues, Secretary. My name is Babalo Stenele, Director, Parliamentary Support Services.
Good morning, Chairperson. Nicole Peterson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, James Retief, Manager, Stakeholder Management and Communication Services and Acting Director, Public Engagement.
Good morning, our members. Good morning, Chair. Charles Doman, Sergeant at Arms.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, SMT. Dawo Jawri, Manager Finance.
Good morning, Chair. Kobe Skricker, Manager ICT.
Good morning, Chair. Usman Nizam, Manager Supply Chain and Asset Management.
Good morning, Chairperson. Themba Keso, Manager PEO. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair.
Sorry.
Good morning,
You may
Chair.
proceed.
Thank you. Mario Sasman, Manager Committees. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairperson. Andre Leroux, Senior Legal Advisor.
Good morning, Chairperson. Carolyn Prakasam, Manager People Management.
Good morning, Genevieve Ackham, Manager, Office of the Secretary.
Good morning, Chair and everyone. Good morning, everyone. Zinzinikelo, Manager, Financial Compliance and Internal Control. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members. Ridwan Babu, Manager, Knowledge Management and Information Services.
Good morning, Lorika Elliott, Speaker's Office.
Good morning, Chairperson. Zugisan.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members. Morning, colleagues. Yanni Ace, Speaker's Office.
Morning, Chairperson, members and SMT. Zugisan Dudneni, Manager, Plenary Support.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members. Elizabeth Kluter, Office of the Speaker.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think we have completed the administration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We have a full house this morning, and it's wonderful to have everyone connected to this meeting this morning. Honourable members, can we just reach concurrence in terms of the various presentations that we will be receiving? Do we concur that we will deal with the presentations one by one. And after the completion of a presentation, we will then pose the necessary questions. Is that in order with members?
Agreed.
Thank you very much, Member Lekker. I see the hand of the Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chair. My apologies, but I want to ask through you and the committee's indulgence to just allow the administration to just give an update on where we are with the cyber security investigation or forensic audit, forensic investigation of the audit. But I know that it's not on the agenda, so I'm happy to request your indulgence to either do it up front or at the end of the set agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think you have indicated to us as well in the previous meeting that you will keep us updated. So thank you very much for that. At this point, Speaker, I will allow you the opportunity should you have any opening remarks, and then the representative of the administration that will be updating us on the cyber issue. Is that in order? You may continue, Speaker. Thank you.
Perfect, Chair. In the interest of time, I think if we can get straight into Mr. Adams and Mr. Titus, if that's in order.
Sure. Thank you very much, Speaker. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the committee would recall that we had previously, just after the occurrence of the event, we had briefed the committee on the incident itself and the processes that was underway at the time. The report from the auditing or the forensic investigators has been received. As the administration, we had not yet discussed the report itself and the recommendations in the report. Chairperson, I am requesting through the Speaker, Chairperson, that maybe the committee considers a closed meeting in future for the administration and possibly also a representative from the forensic investigators to take the committee in confidence through the report. The reason for the request is specific, that from my reading of the report, there are certain risks to the institution in terms of the recommendations and the content of the report. But in order to take the committee into confidence, I am requesting through the Speaker that a special meeting be considered, a closed meeting be considered in order for us to go through the report thoroughly. Chairperson and honourable members, what we have had to date is that all of our systems have been brought up in the closed environment. I think the last system, the last server that had been brought up late last week was our e-filing server. The reason for that was that it was quite an extensive bit of work because of the volumes of information that was on the server specifically. Currently, the institution is in a position to continue with its work. When I say continue with its work, we can see that we are in the process of having a committee meeting. So two other standing committee meetings have continued. The sittings of the House had continued. The institution has been able to honour its commitments in terms of the payment of service providers, the payment of staff, and the payment of members. The Auditor General is currently busy with they completed their planning, so they're busy with the execution and request for information in terms of their annual statutory audit. As an institution, we've been able to provide the information that the AG had been requesting. We've also had regular meetings with the Audit Steering Committee in order to get updates on some of those matters related to the audit itself. The only matter that's still outstanding, and Mr. Titus and possibly Mr. Skriker would be able to add, is getting us back onto the network. That is subject to the recommendations of the report being attended to. From my reading of the report, some of the recommendations we've already started to implement prior to the incident happening on the 23rd of May 2023, but that and the further recommendations are still work in progress. What we will be doing, Chairperson and honourable members, is having a look at the recommendations, see what we currently have in place, see what in terms of our cybersecurity strategy we are still implementing, or the implementation phase, and what matters would still need to be implemented, and what would be the resources, both financial resources and human resources, that we would need to attach to that. Chairperson, if it's in order, I'm first going to hand over to Mr. Titus if he has anything to add, and then to Mr. Skriker, who will then also add some of the updates and the information. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. In that order, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think Mr. Adams has covered most of the areas that needed to be covered. I think the one of the important facets to getting back onto the network requires that we implement whatever recommendations there are, so that we do not incur further vulnerabilities within our system. So we've received the forensic audit report late yesterday, and so we are looking at the recommendations. As the Secretary had indicated, some of these matters have already been attended to. What we have to do is to ensure that when we go live, that we do that within a responsible manner, and that we follow all of the protocols that are required for a safe return. At this stage, we have recovered all of our data from all of our systems. And as you would know, Chairperson, all of our payments, we've been able to do salaries, the payment of our service providers, etc. So the corporate work as well as the work of Parliament had continued unabated. So I think when the service provider, if the committee is in agreement, addresses the committee around the cyber attack and the lessons learned and the way forward, you would also hear that we have been very fortunate as an institution that we'd not lost any data. What has happened, though, is that some of our system may have been compromised from our old system, but that will be discussed in detail in a closed session. I think the Secretary just broke up a little bit when he tried to explain why we are doing why we are suggesting a closed session, Chairperson. And there are two main reasons. As you are aware, the forensic audit is the one aspect, but this forensic audit and the actual hacking, we've had to disclose to law enforcement officers and agencies. And those are processes that need to be continued. And the second part of it is that as a WCPP, we are not in a position where we want to expose our cybersecurity posture onto the internet, and that is why we are requesting that we have a closed session pertaining to this particular matter. All of the law enforcement aspects must continue, and we're providing our full cooperation to the law enforcement agencies. That's all from my side at this stage, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Titus. Mrs. Skriker.
Chair, thank you. Anything I would have to add in terms of the sequencing of going live, and today we're starting with step 1 of going live and preparing the LAN. But if I say anything more, I would be revealing too much about our plan and the sequence of going live, and that should not be in the public domain. That means it could give any attackers some intel as to what we're doing next. But all I can say is that we're preparing the LAN today so that at least users can plug into the LAN and to the Wi-Fi network and continue business as usual. I don't want to comment on the public-facing part of it, as that is how we were compromised. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Skriker. Honourable members, in terms of what was conveyed to us this morning, is it in order that we resolve for Mr. Davids to just scrutinize the parliamentary program, and we set a date for that special meeting for us to have a closed meeting where we can have more insight into what the report entails? Will that be fine with members?
That is in order, Chair.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, honourable members. Then we move along with the agenda for this morning. We can go straight into the first briefing. Thank you very much. Honourable Syed.
Chair, thank you very much. I agree. Just a quick one. I heard it was indicated that the salaries and the claims and all of those things are being also done, notwithstanding the challenges. And I want to thank the administration for that. Just clarity, because we've received quite a few I don't know if it's concerns, but just points raised by some of our members that members were told last week when they did submission of claims that due to the system issues, the claims would be processed and paid by Monday. But I see members are still having the challenge where the claims are not yet processed, or I mean, where the claims haven't yet been paid. So I just wanted to get a sense, is it still, I mean, is there still a problem in that regard with regards to the system, or yeah, just some clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Syed. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson, and through the Speaker, thank you to Honourable Syed for the question. So may we just quickly, before Mr. Titus and or Ms. Prakasim responds to the actual issue of the claims. Well, what we've been able to do from the 23rd is to create a safe environment of the network. And it is through that safe environment that we've been able to continue with the payment of salaries, with the payment of service providers, and with the payment of claims. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to ask Mr. Titus and Ms. Prakasim just to respond to the direct question from Honourable Syed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Titus.
Thank you, Chair. Just a short while after the attack, there was a communication that indicated the manner in which we will be doing the payments, the expense runs for members. One of the aspects that we were looking at was to do a pay run at least on that information be available to the Members Affairs Office by the Thursday, so that the run could be conducted on a Friday. This is something that has happened. I'm not sure of particular individual cases. Maybe Ms. Prakasim is able to share a lot more detail in terms of that, but that was the communication that we had sent through. I know that the Members Affairs officials had been working in the contained environment which we had created in order to do all of the payments as we had been moving along. I don't know, Carolyn, if you are able to just shed a little bit more light on the question from the Honourable Syed.
You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm not aware of any specific members' claims not being paid. I think we would welcome that being brought to our attention. But as the Secretary and Mr. Titus have both indicated, since the issue of the cyber attack, Members Affairs have continued working in a contained space and on a weekly basis have continued processing all claims that have been received together with their supporting documentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Syed, you happy?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just that I have with me a text that I received from Lonwabo indicating that there's still some issues with the system and we submitted last week. So I can tell you specifically, Michael, Member Windvogel came forward to me as well indicating, and we've received this information also from one of our secretaries. So, but that's fine. Let's hope the matter is resolved this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Syed. Member Lecker.
No,
Is this on the
thank
same
you,
matter?
Chair. Yes, maybe it's a way forward, particularly on the matter. Member Syed is correct that not all claims have been processed, but perhaps we would get an information, particularly when it comes to members of the ANC who have submitted claims. This goes back from May month up until now. So let's just let me advise that we get a direct record and when it comes to ANC members that have come forward to our office to report the delays in the payment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Lecker. I see the hand of the speaker.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm partly covered by the request by Honourable Lecker, because I want to, on the record, state that Members' Affairs deals with members and not with political parties. So I would also welcome that, and I will ensure that through Members' Affairs get that to the Chief Whip as a matter of urgency. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for that indulgence as well. Honourable members, we're going to move along with the agenda. The first presentation. You may proceed.
Chairperson, if you would allow me, maybe just Chairperson, just to give an indication of which of the presentations will be attended to by whom,
sure,
if that's in order. So thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, item 2.1 on the agenda, the fourth quarterly performance report will be dealt with by Ms. Margot Goldstone. The financial report related to the fourth quarter will be attended to by Mr. Jawuddin and Ms. Peterson, the CFO. The number 2.2 will be attended to by the Secretary. 2.3 will be attended to by Mr. Stimele and Mr. Retief. 2.4 also by Mr. Retief. Mr. Titus will be attending to 2.5. So without further ado, if I can hand over to Ms. Goldstone to deal with the fourth quarter performance report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Can I just ask 2.2? Would you just say who's dealing with that?
Chairperson, the Secretary will be dealing with 2.2, Chairperson.
And Ms. Goldstone with 2.1.
Yes, Ms. Goldstone and Mr. Jawuddin on the finance side thereof,
Okay.
Chairperson.
Thank you very much. You may proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson, members once again. This is the report on the non-financial performance for quarter 4 of the 2022-23 financial year. The presentation starts with a summary. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we are.
The presentation starts with a summary overview of the performance for this period, followed by detail per program. Chairperson, in summary, the WCPP had a total of 26 performance indicators and targets for the financial year. 24 were due to be met in quarter 4. 20 of these were indeed met and 4 were not, resulting in an overall achievement level of 83% for quarter 4. In terms of program performance, you will see the majority of the quarter 4 targets were met in all 4 of the programs, and that you can see from the percentages in that last column of the table. However, we did have underachievement in 3 of the 4 programs, 2 in program 1, 1 in program 2, and 1 in program 3. And the next slide talks to the areas where we had underachievements and also the reasons. In program 1, the underachievement is in respect of the indicator on the percentage compliance by the executive authority with the prescribed legislative obligations in terms of FAMPLA. where in Q1 of the financial year, there was non-compliance with the FAMPLA timeframes for tabling of the in-year monitoring report, which is the financial report. The reason, as we've cited it in the QPR report, is an administrative oversight. So basically, the processing of the documentation pertaining to the IYM was delayed. The second indicator in Program 1, which wasn't met, was the percentage of planned APP program performance indicators, where we had targeted 96% as an annual achievement in terms of the APP, but only reached 81%. Chairperson, in Program 2, the underachievement is in respect of the indicator percentage compliance with applicable regulations of the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act, where we achieved a 98% compliance level with the requirements of the Act. We've disclosed in the quarterly, in the QPR report, that the main finding was with regard to the Joint Operations Centre. The National Key Points Office undertakes an annual assessment where they determine what aspects of compliance with regard to the Act we are falling short on. And they came up with the recommendation that we needed a larger Joint Operations Centre at 7 Wales Street, larger than the current one, which could accommodate more stakeholders in the event that there was an emergency which required stakeholders to convene physically. So we have taken the matter up with them as a matter of appeal, and we are working with this department in order to work on an alternative for this, because it may not be feasible given the space constraints in the building. The second issue they raised was the need to strengthen security at the walk-through entrance to the WCPP building. Chairperson, in Program 3, the underachievement is due to the digital platform, which we were supposed to launch by Q4, but it was not completed in the financial year, so therefore we could not proceed with the launch, and the reason is due to procurement delays. Chairperson, we'll now move on to the detail per program. I'll try to be brief. So I've covered most of the areas, all of the areas of underachievements so far. So the rest will just mainly focus on the key achievements. In Program 1, as we've seen, we had 7 of the 9 targets that were met. Under the sub-program Office of the Secretary, the indicators percentage of member satisfaction with the administrative support services, as well as the compliance by the accounting officer with FAMPLA were both met. So for the percentage of member satisfaction, we achieved an 89% overall satisfaction score against a target of 80%, which we had set for the year, and that is for the year 22-23. We also achieved 100% compliance by the accounting officer for the year. Under the sub-program Financial Management, we targeted the completion of a progress report against the Financial Management Improvement Plan, which was done, and also the completion of an inspection report, which was to be finalized by our internal financial compliance and internal control unit. This was also done, and the inspection focused on the management of service level agreements by the WCPP. Then under the sub-program Institutional Enablement, we achieved 100% of what we had planned for the year in terms of strategic initiatives in IT, HR, and knowledge management. And so in IT, some of this would include work around the implementation of the cybersecurity strategy, planning for the tools of trade for the 7th Parliament, planning for the modernization of the chamber, etc. In human resources, initiatives would have included the SAGE 300 project, as well as the leadership development program. In knowledge management, it would have included the work on the development of the intranet. So that is Program 1. Program 2, we had 6 targets in Q4, of which 1 was not met, which I mentioned. Under the sub-program Plenary Support, we planned for 100% of ATCs to be published within the agreed timeframes, as well as for the complete digest of rulings to be compiled by Q4, and both were done. Under the sub-program Committee Support, we planned for all reports, committee reports, draft reports, to be produced in line with the standard operating procedures, meaning they would have been administratively properly vetted by a senior, quality assured, and all of this would have been done within the specified timeframes. And this target was indeed met for the fourth quarter. For the sub-program Sergeant at Arms, we are required on an annual basis to submit a UAMP, which is the User Immovable Asset Management Plan, together with all other departments, submitted to the Department of Infrastructure. This was done as per the specifications and by deadline. And we also implemented the three targeted actions as per the Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment Report, or the HIRA report. The actions relate to OHS matters that needed to be addressed by the WCPP, and they include having a monthly fire equipment register to address exposed electrical cabling in the building, and also to address access to fire equipment in the building. Also, a monthly housekeeping register to address refuse at the generator room, which also poses a fire risk. So those fire-related matters were attended to by Q4 of 2023. Chairperson, on to Program 3, Public Engagement. We had 8 targets, of which 7 were met. One I've mentioned has not been achieved. Under the sub-program Stakeholder Management and Communication Services, all our targets were met. We planned for an additional functionality to be added to the website to enhance the information offered to users, and this was done. We now have an interparliamentary engagements page, which was added, which provides users with summary reports of international engagements since the start of the 6th parliamentary term. We'd also plan to increase the content that we publish on social media platforms by 5%, and it's a target that we've set incrementally over the 5-year term. So every year, it's an additional 5% by which we want to increase, and we achieved an additional 9%, which exceeds the 5% as planned. And the reason we were able to do this is because we had identified additional opportunities to profile the work of the WCPP on social media. Chairperson, we also planned for 1 protocol training session to be held with members and staff, and managed to complete 2 by Q4. In terms of the international relations, we had implemented 100% of what we had planned in terms of the IR implementation plan. So this would have included international interparliamentary engagements, conferences of SOCAT, CPA, etc., as well as committee international study tours. Under the sub-program Public Education and Outreach, all targets except the digital platform were met. We exceeded the planned number of public education initiatives. So we planned for 24 and we actually achieved 45. We were able to exceed this because of a quite high demand in this year for education workshops, including from members of the WCPP who reached out to this unit to request for workshops to be convened with groups of stakeholders, but also external organizations and community-based organizations that reached out to the unit for the service. We also had established 2 additional strategic partnerships by Q4, one with the University of the Western Cape and the other one with MOT South Africa, which is a children and youth-based community-based organization. And the idea was to be able to partner with them in order to leverage the access that they have to children and to youth for the purposes of our public participation programs, and also for the purposes of enhancing their youth and children's involvement in the work of Parliament, but also in democracy more broadly. Chairperson, we produced the biannual report on Teta Nati by Q4. So this report would have covered the Teta Nati visits, the regional visits for the Overberg district, which happened in November of 2022. And finally, the program member support had just one indicator for Q4 on the number of training and development initiatives implemented. Members participated in all 4 of the categories of initiatives over the course of the financial year, so by Q4. These would have included formal training through higher education institutions, which would be certificate programs as well as master's level courses, LSS donor-funded training, which is mainly short courses, CPA training, and then special information sessions that are beneficial to members, for example, on issues around tax and pension provisions, etc. Chairperson, that concludes the report on the Q4 non-financials for 22-23. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goldstone. Mr. Secretary, want to add?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Ms. Goldstone had in her first few slides indicated the 4 areas, Chairperson and honourable members, where the institution had not achieved. I thought maybe just to add a bit of context to one of them related to the 98% that we'd achieved against the target of 100%. Like Ms. Goldstone had indicated, on an annual basis, there's an assessment by the National Key Point Office. Their assessment had until this year, or this assessment, only taken into account that meetings within the Joint Operations Centre happens in person. In our representations after the outcome of the assessment that got us to 98%, we had requested that any future assessments take into account that the world of work now also had ventured into the virtual space, and therefore meetings of the Joint Operations Centre does not just have to happen in person, but could also happen hybrid, while in person and also virtually. They have given an indication that they will be considering it for the next assessment. That would then get us closer to the 100%. Chairperson, maybe just to conclude this quarterly non-financial performance report. The targets gives an indication of what the organization and the report against the target, how we performed against those targets, but there was so much more work that the institution had performed, this being the last quarter of the 2022-2023 financial year. Chairperson and honourable members would, for example, recall that the Western Cape Provincial Parliament had its turn in 2022 to coordinate the countries, the Republic of South Africa's CPA engagements, which had taken quite a bit of time from both colleagues who had their normal jobs and had this as an add-on function. But I would like to report that we had successfully completed our tasks in that regard, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I don't know, just going forward, if you would want to take questions on this before we move over to Mr. Jawadin and the CFO in terms of the financial report, or whether we would conclude the financial report first and then questions on both of them. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable members, do we proceed with the next one?
Yes, Chair, we can continue.
Chair?
Member Lekker?
Thank you, Chair. I was going to propose that maybe for this one, we deal with 1 or 2 questions that are outstanding or that we may have, and then go to the next presentation.
Honourable Lekker?
Hi, Chair. Did you?
I heard you, yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you have 2 questions? Please refer to the slide and pose your questions.
All right. I'll start from the back, Chair. I think it's slide number 29, the Tetanati program. May I?
You may proceed, member.
Thank you, Chair. A quick one, Chair. The Tetanati program, I just want to understand, were there any recommendations that were made in all those visits that were undertaken by Parliament? And if there were any recommendations, were those addressed? Can we get a quick outline as to what exactly were those? Even if it's not in detail, and perhaps request a detailed report on the recommendations if there were any. And then the second one, Chair, is at the beginning. At the beginning, we got a report that talks to 89 compliance versus the 100% compliance of Q4 on the targets that were not achieved. Can we just get a quick reflection as to what exactly happened there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Lekker. Member Maseko.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I just want to find out, and I'm going to let sort of add to what Member Lekker have asked. We requested the list of all the issues that were raised at the Chetanati so that we can see if when doing the report also those issues that were raised were directed to different committees or departments to deal with those issues, because like we said in the last meeting or the meetings not last, I don't know when, because it's quite some time ago, that sort of we raised expectations with the Chetanati, so we need to address those issues that were raised as Chetanati was happening, and also to get
Member Maseko.
We took a resolution to ask the PO to send us those issues.
Member Maseko. Honorable Maseko, can you hear me? Honorable Maseko, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yeah,
you
I
now.
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Unfortunately, we did not get the entire question. Do you mind, please just repeating?
Okay. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, clear now. Thank you.
Okay. I was asking about the Chetanati because the way expectations that were raised as it was rolling out in the province, that those issues that were raised, we request as a committee for the PO to send us the information of the issues or send them to the departments as expectations were raised. So did they send that to us, or if not, what happened to those issues that were raised by the communities, just to address the expectations that we created with the Chetanati program to our communities. Another one on slide number, I don't know slide number, but is the Q4 on targets not achieved. There is a public education and outreach for no launch of the digital platform. This was due to procurement delays. That was the reason. I just want to find out why. And if you move on slide number, I want to go to slide number, no, it's not slide number, it's on Q4, program 1, on the percentage of IT digitalization. It says that 100% was achieved for the planned IT digitalization. And then now I'm talking about IT, the achievement of the IT everywhere else, where the achievement is 100%, and try to get an explanation of if the procurement for the public education outreach launch didn't happen, but when you go to the social media side of the Western Cape, there is 100% achievement. I'm trying to check the IT or why there's no alignment. It's like it's a silo, but and then help me, because I'm a layman. I'm trying to connect the dots of if you have to do the IT within the organization, all those that needs that sort of that service will be aligned correctly. So Now, if one department, one program, its procurement take doesn't happen, but everything else is 100%, why in the planning, it doesn't talk to each and every program that has to be attended to, or every framework that has to happen within the IT structure? If maybe I can get the results, I wonder if does that make sense? If I can get the response to the chair. And also the target setting of the overachievement of the number of international relations or protocol training. If the plan was just for one, why did we have to have two? Was there a reason? Because now it looks at an overachievement, and I don't want to feel like the target was set low, so that there must be an overachievement in all the overachievements that have happened within WCPP. Where there is the lower targets, but there's been overachievements. What was the driver to that overachievement? Why there was a need for that overachievement that happened? Chair, that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Member Maseko. Mr. Secretary, I'm going to start with you, and you can just give us an indication who will attend to the various questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Maybe just if I can just quickly deal with who's going to attend to the questions. So the Tetanati questions is going to be attended to by Mr. Retief and Mr. Keswa. The digital platform is also Mr. Retief, and then we'll try to give an explanation on the overachievement on targets. Chairperson, there was the first question, the second question from Honourable Ecker on slide 6, as the 89% compliance versus the 100% compliance in terms of FAMPLA. So maybe just quickly, FAMPLA prescribes that the accounting officer by a certain date in a month is to provide the executive authority with the IYM for the executive authority then to consider. The executive authority then also has a certain number of days to then to consider the IYM and then to ensure, once the executive authority has approved it, to then ensure that it is tabled. I wish to mention then, as per the note there on the slide, that the non-compliance had occurred in the first quarter of 2022-2023. So in terms of months, it would be from April to June 2022. In quarter 2, in quarter 3, and in quarter 4, there were compliance with the FAMPLA prescripts. So maybe just in terms of that. So what had actually happened there is that in quarter 1, the IYM for that specific month was not, we weren't able to publish it within the time frames that FAMPLA had prescribed, because there was a delay in terms of the administrative processes. So from the accounting officer, it had gone within the time frame, it had gone to the executive authority for consideration and for further processing to the clerk of the papers for it to be tabled via an ATC. And it is in that process, Chairperson, that there was a bit of a delay and that had led us to, out of time, then ensure that it is tabled. I think it was something like 1 day where the delay was in terms of the tabling. Maybe just Ms. Goldstone will, and some of the other colleagues will add with the overachievement. Sometimes the achievement of some of these targets is dependent on the availability of internal stakeholders. And when I say internal stakeholders, it would refer to either staff or it would refer to members being available, etc., etc. If we look at the IR implementation and the training in terms of that, there was an opportunity for an additional training intervention to be delivered. There was availability by the delegates who needed to attend, and that opportunity was taken because our policy actually indicates that the attendance of the IR training, the protocol training, is a requirement for participation in international engagements. Now, because we had that extra opportunity, those who had not yet gone through the protocol training, it was then deemed appropriate to see about their availability, and when they were available, that course was then also delivered, which then puts also those members and staff now in a position to, when an opportunity arises for international engagement or participation, those delegates would then also be able to participate in those international engagements. Chairperson, I'm now going to hand over to Mr. Retief to start with the Tetanati report. And then, as I had previously indicated, the other colleagues will respond to the other questions by Honourable Lekker and Honourable Maseko. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams.
Chairperson, through you, if I could maybe start first with the digital platform. So the delay there is a procurement process. So the value of the procurement exceeds the threshold for using our normal procurement process. So this went out on tender. And then there were some challenges in getting all of the relevant bodies that deal with tenders, the bid evaluation committee, the bid adjudication committee, et cetera, et cetera. So that took some time, and those delays meant that the procurement process couldn't be completed during that financial year. But I believe that we are in the final procurement stages of that at the moment. So we expect that tender to be awarded shortly. Just to add on to what the Secretary mentioned in terms of the international relations and protocol training, members will maybe remember a couple of years ago, we had a target of doing 2 of these training sessions a year. And the plan in that year was that all serving members and employees at that stage would all complete the training, which was achieved. Last year, what happened is that we had some new members and some new employees, and those new members and employees, or some of them, were identified to participate in international travel programs. And in order to ensure that we comply with our international relations policy, we then had to arrange additional training sessions for those people. Chairperson, then in terms of the Tetanati feedback, I'm actually going to hand over to Mr. Keswa, the manager PEO, to provide feedback on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank
Chair,
you.
can you hear me?
We can hear you. You may proceed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, maybe I need to go back a little bit and just explain that Tetanati was a program that was utilized to introduce the members of the WCPP to the people of the Western Cape. That was one of the major issues why the program was implemented. However, because it was known that when we go to various areas in the province, people would raise, obviously, the issues of service delivery, would then invite the municipal leadership to attend as well, and sometimes a minister also to attend as well, so that if there were issues that were raised by the people, service delivery issues that were raised, they would then be attended immediately right there in the spot by the municipal leadership that would be there, because most of the issues that were raised were issues that were of service delivery nature that the WCPP usually wouldn't be in a position to intervene on. Some also of the chairpersons of the committees here at the WCPP would also attend. And if there were issues that were concerning some of the committees that they deal with, those issues, they would raise their hand and assist and intervene in the issues that were there. But to answer the question, I would say, of course, the report was for all Tetanati programs, the report was done, and all the issues that were raised by the participants was also included in the report, and that report was then sent to the Speaker's office, and the Speaker's office, I understand, would then forward that program to various committees depending on the issues that were raised based on the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there anyone else from the administration? Honorable Maseko, I see your hand. Is that a follow-up? Or you wanted to provide some clarity on one of the questions that you raised?
Yeah, I want clarity on, because the response that we got just now about the tetanati is not what the same as we got it when we were doing the annual reports. In the annual reports, we were made to understand that we will receive the list of those issues, because I can ask every chairperson if they received those issues that were addressed, or the ministers. And I'm afraid it might be I'm not going to get the information as has been said here in the committee. Now, when we had the annual reports, we were told, no, we'll get that report about the tetanati issues that were raised there. And it's not for us, it's about the communities where where the expectation were raised. I attended that once, and I listened to the issues that were there. It were issues like, when is the house is going to be built, the list of the beneficiaries, and I'm mentioning the few that were there that I listened to. I think I attended it twice. So with due respect, all we needed, and I think I spoke to the other chairperson, was, can we get those issues so that we can go back to distribute to the chairpersons, to the standing committees to address those issues, and just continuation of the annual report, when there was a promise of we'll get the report, to now about those issues. Not now that we get a different response to what I was expecting, that we will get a way forward of how are we going to deal with that. If the report is not there, then we can try to exact some information there to go back to do the report, because it's about WCPP, it's about our brand. It's not only about that program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. I see the hands of Mr. Adams and the Speaker.
Chairperson, I don't know if the Speaker would want to go ahead of me, Chairperson.
You can go ahead, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I want to, with Honorable Maseko's follow-up, I think Honorable Maseko is absolutely correct. When we go out and engage communities, we create a reasonable expectation as public representatives that we are engaging communities and their concerns. I mean, my view always is, if it's important for somebody to raise it, it's important for us to action it. So I will take it upon the office of the Speaker to make sure that reports of the tetanati in this financial year, with the outcomes and the request for or comments and queries raised by communities and citizens, will be submitted to POC. I want to on record state that I will ensure that we get that, and my apologies that POC didn't get it, because we cannot engage communities, create an expectation and then leave it hanging. That's part of the responsibility of Parliament, and as members of Parliament, we have a duty, and it's a constitutional responsibility to have an oversight over the executive. And 90% of the time, the queries raised in communities directly relates to government and government implementation and government services. So I'll ensure that gets to the committee, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that commitment, Speaker. Member Maseko, are you happy with that undertaking by the Speaker?
Chair, I am happy about that. I'm happy. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member. Honourable members, I do not see any further hands on this presentation.
Chairperson.
Someone is whispering, Chairperson.
Apologies, Chairperson. It's Mr. Adams, the Secretary.
Mr. Adams, please proceed.
I apologize for whispering. Chairperson, maybe just quickly in terms of process. The Chairperson and the committee members would recall that the process is there's a meeting, there's commitments, there's the informal correspondence that gets sent to the Speaker's office and to the administration. In terms of the reports of tetanati to the POC, those reports are ready, Chairperson. We've been given a deadline by the 30th of June, which is next week Friday, for those reports on Tetanati to be submitted. There are also other documents that have been requested in that same report. So it is work that will be attended to by next week Friday, so that the committee can have the Tetanati report. Chairperson, I don't know, there was a question by Honourable Maseko on slide 15. In terms of the alignment of the digital platform and the IT achievements of 100% that I don't think was been responded yet. If Mr. Retief and Mr. Skriker, maybe just in terms of the IT performance, can respond to that question. Thank you.
You may proceed, gentlemen.
Chairperson, if I may, the digital online platform is a PEO target and doesn't form part of the digitization plans of the ITDS section.
Thank you, Mr. Retief. Mr. Titus, I see your hand.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to comment on the relationship and the work that IT does in terms of the support that it provides as technical lead to various projects, because I think Member Maseko made the link between IT and the work that IT does and the work that is happening in the PE space, in the public engagement space. So while IT provides the necessary detailed technical kind of input regarding platform systems, etc., the public engagement colleagues will still be the project overall project leads. So this is also about integrated projects that we're talking about. So while that is happening, there are a number of corporate units involved, including supply chain management, who's providing the supply chain detailed support. The functional lead is then required to bring all of these parties together. So IT provides the technical support, and the lead will still be the functional lead will still be where the function actually resides. Perhaps I just needed to give that kind of clarity as well, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Titus. Colleagues, in the absence of any further hands, we will immediately go over to the next presentation. You may proceed.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Through you, if I can maybe just share my screen. If you can just confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jawudeen.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be presenting the fourth quarter IYM report, which is basically the report as at the end of the previous financial year, as at the 31st of March 2023. With regards to the expenditure versus the budget as at the 31st of March, of our adjusted budget of 237,476,000, we had spent 218,206,000, which is a spend of just less than 92%. With regards to our voted funds, we then effectively had an underspending of about, which is over 12 million. However, the reasons for that is specifically, if I can just touch on a few, it would be the filling of vacant posts, which resulted in underspending for the late or non-filling of vacant posts, and specific ones of projects that was not finalized throughout the previous financial year, and specifically with regards to some of those that had been committed. So orders has been raised, but the project for specifically could not be finalized by the end of the financial year, but is planned to be finalized in this financial year. However, I'll touch on some specific ones in the further slides. With regards to program 1 of the adjusted budget of just under 84 million, we spent 76 million, which is a effect of 90, which is below 91% spend on that. If I can maybe just touch on specific sub-programs what you get that results, that caused the, or resulted in the underspending in that particular program. With regards to, if I look at the main one specifically, if you look at people management, there's less than 80% spent on them. That's mainly due to vacant posts within that sub-program that is currently in the process of being filled, as well as the training costs, which was less than originally projected for. If I then look at ITTS, you'll see that a 72% spend there, and the main reason for that is specifically once-off project that was planned in the previous financial year that could not be finalized, however, has been rolled over to be finalized in this current financial year. If I can maybe just touch on a few of them, would be the Sage 300 projects, the cyber security project, and ERP editions, as well as some specific other projects that was planned to be finalized in the previous financial year, but rolled over to be finalized or committed and rolled over to be finalized in this current financial year. With regards to Program 2 of the adjusted budget of the 25,958,000, we spent 25,451,000, which is a 98% spend. If I can maybe just touch the main underspending in that particular sub-program is the Hansard underspend, and that's due to the fact that we spend less than originally projected for on Hansard specifically, and Sergeant at Arms, which is 85% spend, and that's also a once-off project which was planned in the previous financial year for the archive shelving project, which has been rolled over into this current financial year to be finalized in this current financial year as committed funds. With regards to Program 3, we spent just less than 90% of that budget, and the main reason for that is under public education outreach, and that relates to a project that has been touched on already, which is a digital online platform. That's a 1.7 million rand project, which was planned to be finalized in the previous financial year, which is currently in the procurement process and planned to be finalized in this current financial year. So that is committed funds and which has been rolled over to be finalized in the current financial year, Chair. Then with regards to Program 4, of the adjusted budget of 59,825, we spent 57,496, and the main reason for that particular underspending is under members' allowances, which is the enabling allowances, which is dependent on members claiming and demand driven, and under contributions with regards to if I can call it the members' gratuity benefit, which is projected for, but obviously only paid for if a member retires or leaves. So that's underspending on that, as well as the CPA payments, which came through in this current financial year, which was projected for in the previous financial year. Secretarial and constituency allowance, if we look at the constituency allowance, that's a 97% spend, and that's mainly due to the fact that we had budgeted more than what the National Parliament budget amount was. And once we receive the National Parliament budgeted amount for constituency allowance, we then adjust our payments to the political parties to be in line with the National Parliament. With regards to Program 5, which is a direct charge, we spent of the adjusted budget of 50 million, we spent 43, and the main reason for that underspending is due to the fact that in the previous financial year there was no clarity or no member salary increase that came through, and hence that amount was based on salaries of members paid in the previous financial year. Sure, and that's a very brief summary of the financial position as at the end of March last year, which is the fourth quarter of the 22-23 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jawuddin. Honourable members, are there any questions? I see the Honourable Maseko, the only hand. You may proceed, member.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I'm sorry, my connection is a little bit so and so because I'm in the office. I want to find out on the fourth quarter for the stakeholder management and communication, there is a 102.61%, which is above the 100%, and also strategy and organizational performance above. What is in those scenarios, just to empower me, in those scenarios, what will be the reason for it's things that I believe they are not the moving targets. It's like they're stagnant. It's you have to spend that for doing that. And in this case, a little bit more. What are the reasons for that to happen? Just to help me to understand. And maybe, Chair, if you can indulge me, that is it possible or is not allowed if we can in future as we get the fourth quarterly report, if we can show the quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 expenditures as they grow up, so that we can check the quarter by quarter, and then it becomes a very beautiful build up for the annual reports when we are done. We will appreciate that. If it's allowed, if it's not allowed, I still do understand. But looking at the document with that build up, it sort of helps to make it easier to have a look at it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Maseko. I don't see any other hands. Mr. Jawudeen.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, if I may, just to answer Member Maseko's question. So with regards to the overspending within a particular sub-program, just a little bit of background. So what we do have monthly IYM meeting, which is basically monthly budget meetings, where we do discuss and identify any possible under or overspending within a particular sub-program. And as it's within program 3, the program manager would be the chair of that particular sub-program, or sorry, that program, where that sub-programs fall under. And if we do identify that there is unplanned expenditure within a particular sub-program that's not budgeted for, the program manager would then identify there is any savings within the program for which their funding can be identified. So within the stakeholder management communication services, even though there's over expenditure within that particular sub-program, the program as a whole, as underspending, so there was funds available to actually cover for the overspending within stakeholder management. And the reason for that particularly was with regards to unplanned expenditure that was not budgeted for at the beginning of the year. And if it's just on the top of my head, I think the one example would be the translation of the annual report. So there would be specific expenditure that was not planned and budgeted for at the beginning of the year that we do identify in our monthly IY meetings and determine if there is savings within the program to cover for that. So as on the program as a whole, we did fall in line with, we did spend within the budget, and that was where the overspending within the sub-program is covered basically within savings of the other program. With regards to the other question, we can definitely going forward, provide all 4 quarters as part of the actual presentation to ensure that there is some sort of trend analysis that can available for the members in those presentations. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure that answers the question.
Member Maseko, you satisfied?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jawudeen, can I perhaps just ask for clarity in the instance where you say there was underspending and there was money rolled over, meaning for the new financial year, those money not spent in the previous financial year, are there instances where, if I can call it like that, new money needed to be allocated to certain projects? And I don't want to say fall away, but not necessarily provision were made for rollovers in that regard.
Yes,
were there such instances?
Yes, Chair, through you, Chair. So if, apologies if I give a too detailed response, but just a bit of background. So just to, maybe I could have mentioned in the presentation as well. So basically with regards to our underspending, Section 23 of FAMPLA does allow for the provincial legislatures to roll over any underspending, which is quite different to the rest of the province. So we do have a process where internally, whatever underspending we do have, which like I mentioned earlier, we had about a 12 million underspending. We then look at specifically what was the reason for the underspending. We then look at specifically what of that underspending were committed funds or funds that was for projects that was already initiated via orders, and then that particular committed funds get automatically basically gets part of the is almost automatically rolled over because it's part of project that already been started. And whatever is remaining, we look at specifically what the need is within WCPP, and with discussions with the program managers and SMT, a proposal is then made to the speaker with regards to what the savings or underspending particularly would be utilized for based on the needs and where there is other projects that have been identified. So through you, Chair, I can specifically amending has been approved, a rollover has been approved by the speaker, and specific identified projects has been identified with the rollover projects for which that 12 million has been allocated.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jawudeen. Honorable Maseko.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. The issue of the Hansard services, because we've been coming, and I know Member Batman has been very passionate about that, was way in advance warning that there will be an underspend on that. Do we see that improving on the new financial year, and what will be different in dealing with it to make sure that we don't have that underspending for the Hansard services, which it's a little bit difficult to understand why do we have the underspending on that. And also, if I can ask, and maybe Secretary will help me or the CFO, why is there an sort of an underspending every financial year? Because fortunately I've been in POC for some few years, and yet the budgeting increases all the time. Is there the financial principle attached to that, accounting principle attached to that, or what are the reasons for that? If that is the case that we're seeing when we look at the statistics about the spending trend of WCPP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. I'm going to give to the Secretary.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm going to answer the last question of Honorable Maseko first, and then Mr. Javadine and the CFO will assist with the other question. So the question was, why is there a trend of underspending? So the underspend in the WCPP is comprised of compensation of employees and then goods and services. And then in some cases, there are other items that also constitute the variables within the underspending. Okay, so vacancies, if I can deal with vacancies first, the vacancies and the filling of the vacancies is a process that's always in institutions ongoing. And when I say it's ongoing, when we fill a vacancy today, we have no guarantee that the employee will stay in the institution forever. That's number one. Number two, when we fill the vacancy today and that vacancy has been filled by somebody internal into the institution, it means another vacancy is then created, and therefore there's then again in that new vacancy, there's then an underspend on the compensation of employees, because it will take 3 to a few months for the position to be filled. Across the public sector, a vacancy rate of 10% or under is considered acceptable because of that scenario that vacancies is something that you can't predict, but it is ongoing. The other matter, if it relates to goods and services, we have a procurement plan in place. We follow that procurement plan, and then in some cases factors outside of our control results in that the timelines within that procurement plan being extended. An example would be we would draft the specifications, we would publish the tender. Those responding to the tender would then give us prices that is firstly outside of our budget, or they are quoting for services that we don't think was part of the specifications. If there's a limited number of providers that are tendering, we then have to go out again to the market to ask the market, this is our specifications. Are there anybody else out there that would be interested in delivering the service within our budget projections that we have available? And those are the things that then more often than not get us to an underspend. Chairperson, the underspend looks big, but if we look at what must be deducted in terms of the items that have already been committed, we get then to a far smaller amount that is actually the underspend. And as Mr. Javadine had indicated, there is then an internal process that gets to be followed to determine how those retained funds, how are we then going to retain, how are we then going to utilize those retained funds? Chairperson, I recall in the previous financial year in the adjustment estimate process, we had, for example, provided additional funding to certain areas in the core business of the institution, specifically for additional funding for some of the work and other work then to be conducted within those areas. Thank you, Chairperson. I don't know if Mr. Javadine and Ms. Peterson has anything to add.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Javadine, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, just with regards to the other question on Hansard, yes, that is something that we are discussing internally, and something that, with regards to speakers, actually quite has actually had quite discussion with us about. But however, with regards to the Hansard provision, we do in the budget make provision for Hansard based on the contract and specific projections from sub-program managers based on the need that we project is required throughout the year. However, I'm not sure Mr. Stimele want to supplement this specifically to give a bit more background. But just to note specifically that with regards to the actual provision, is based on what we estimate the cost would be based on the contract value and possible number of sittings.
Thank you, Daud. Let me just respond, members, and explain a bit. What has happened in the past is that we had our contract for Hansard ending sometime last year, but we had to contract and continue now on the contract basis until the process of a tender for Hansard was finalized. But also having to members in the Program Authority Committee meeting where concerns have been raised again about the number of sittings that we have that are not adequate, they are too small, we need to increase the number. And one looks now currently this year, we already have an increase of more than 2, if not 3, as per the parliamentary program. And if we look at what would spend in this financial year, will be more and closer to that billion. And if we're to add more sittings, or the committee, the programming authority committee agrees on adding more sittings, then we're running the risk of not having the funds to cover Hansard. So also that we have to take it also based against that particular background that we've got something that we don't have a control of, but we have to budget for, and for anything that may happen thereafter, also having to play it by the ear that look, there are also concerns, so that if one day there will be consensus that let us increase, what will we do? We'll go back and say that we don't have enough money to pay the service provider. So we're avoiding such a things. Thank you very much.
Ek sien die hand van die speaker. Speaker, u mag voortgaan.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I want to just add something on the Hansard question. The reality of the matter is, and Honourable Maseko is absolutely correct when she says that this is a trend. I was also a member of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee, and it's been raised for many years. I have engaged the administration on this because it can be that there's an underspend on Hansard on an annual basis, yet we budget exactly the same. So I have engaged the CFO and the team around that, and we are looking at that for this financial year. We have looked at it for this financial year. The reality of the matter is that and I want to on the record state that the amount of sittings is in comparison to the annual sittings every year is exactly more or less the same. So I respectfully do not anticipate an increase based on an increased number of sittings, because that's what the Parliamentary Programming Authority has been dealing with, and that is not a thing that it happens on a monthly basis, but in fact the program for the year is being set, and the budget for Parliament is being set for the year ahead, not on a monthly basis. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I do not see any further hands on this presentation. Colleagues, can we move along to the next presentation?
Chairperson, I think it's item 2.2, Chairperson, if I can maybe respond.
You might proceed, Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, item 2.2 specifically speaks feedback on any instructions issued in terms of section 37.6 and section 66.2 of FAMPLA. It would be referring to instructions of the Executive Authority to the Accounting Officer. I can report that for Q4, i.e. the months of January to March 2023, the no instructions in terms of those two sections were received by the Accounting Officer from the Executive Authority. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Honourable members, are there any questions? Comments? I don't see any hands. We can go over to the next presentation.
Thank you, Chairperson. It would be Mr. Retief and Mr. Stimele. Thank you.
Chairperson, maybe if I can come in here, unless Mr. Stemele would like to kick off.
If you're ready, you can go, Mr. Retief. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. There is no specific presentation. However, the documentation has been shared with the committee members. So there is a directive on petitions and the executive undertakings issued by the Speaker. This directive was signed in June 2021, and it sets out quite clearly what the process is for petitions and how they should be dealt with and how they need to be followed up, and also what the support from the administration is that is provided to the petitions committee, and then what the process is for following up petitions that are received and that are actually deemed to be within the ambit of the petitions committee, and then following those up with the government departments or members of the executive that they've been referred to. So the petitions, the PEO section assists with conducting the preliminary investigations into the petitions, and if necessary, seeking legal or other advice, and then if language services is required, to assist with translating any of the documentation and so on, and then providing support to the petitions committee throughout the process of dealing with the petitions. And then once the committee makes a recommendation to the Speaker will then refer these matters to the relevant government departments or members of the executive. And then there is a standard format for monitoring and reporting on these executive undertakings. Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Stemele.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Retief. Chair, what's happening is that currently, as things stand, also in terms of the directives that Mr. Retief is referring to, the entry point in the WCPP for the petitions, it's PO. Then on registration of the petition, then PO will send the same to committees. And then the committee, that is petitions committee, then that's where, with the report and preliminary report, depending on whether there is another further investigation that is required or any opinion or legal opinion that will be required, then it will be sent in either research or to legal, and then the committee then will go and do its work, that is listening to the petitioners, and the report will be drafted. And in that process, PO will also have to be able to update the petitioners, and in so doing, so that they keep the petitioners on the loop as to what is happening with the petition. Then it's supposedly, having left the petitions committee, it goes to the affected, or the department whom the petition has been made against. And then when such a report is being brought back, or a response, a report itself is tabled in the House, and then because the only place where the executive undertakings can be made, it is in the House, so that the executive member responsible or executive members responsible can be able to make such undertakings. And based on those undertakings made in the House, then the plenary staff will take those as a resolution of the House and the undertakings and send it to the office of the Speaker, who then refers them, one, to the PO, so that they give the response to the petitioners, and secondly, to the relevant committee, so that the committee can be able to track now the department based on their oversight meetings. However, any member, again, has got a right to stand up and say that on a particular date, it can be in the member statement, at a particular date, a member of a particular or a member of executive made the following undertaking, and the member has not yet come back or have not received a response that explains as to what is happening. So with having said all that, currently we've got a process that we are following internally of trying to have the cutting across covers all the steps that had to be done. And currently such an SOP, it is with PEO. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stamela. Honourable members, any questions, comments? I do not see any hands on my side. Thank you. Mr. Adams, who will be dealing with it. Member Maseko.
Sorry, Chair, it seems everything is just on a slow motion today. I just want you to find out, this issue of the petition, it's a little bit difficult from in the rules to come to activate as we receive the petitions. I'm going to make another example so that I can get clarity. 2014, the issue of the housing in Grootbrak was referred to the Standing Committee of Human Settlements. Initially, that issue was in the Petitions Committee before 2014, and it had, I think, the life cycle of about 5 years when it landed in Human Settlements. And it was attended to from the Standing Committee to date. I think this year they've allocated the funds for that. Now, the life cycle of that petition, you can see it's quite some time, and there were some facets of dealing with that petition from the initial stage of it. Now you do have the WCPP, and then you have the department. And petition, if it's sent to WCPP, there are expectations. I'm talking about expectations, I think, today too much. There are expectations of the responses from the WCPP, even though there can be a delay in the government side to react to that. Now, I want to find out how, and then maybe Secretary and the Speaker, they will help me. How do we sustain that relationship of the value of the petition without damaging the brand itself, if it takes time, because there are budgetary constraints when coming to the government to react maybe sometimes to a very valid, the very tangible petition that you can see there that you have to make sure that you give joy in the systems that we have in place for the communities in the WCPP, and specifically talking about the petitions. How do we make sure that our turnaround time for our petitions also makes our communities to find joy in using that committee for WCPP to react to the issues in our communities? Thank you, Chair. I think that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Member Maseko. Mr. Stamela, will that be you or Mr. Retief?
It will be me, ma'am. Some aspects in the process, again, will be political. However, as I've said before, when the petition is received, we've got a responsibility to acknowledge it, which is the first correspondence with the petitioners, and explaining the following step. Then based on the following step, the committee will go and meet with the petitioners or the researcher, and then thereafter the committee, wherein the petitioners will also further echo and explain whatever that may not be clear, and giving also an opportunity to take the committee through inspection in loco so that they understand exactly what is it that they're talking about. From there, a report will be drafted by the committee and will call in the department that is responsible, whom the petitioners are petitioning against. Then, based on what has been said, then that particular report, having compiled, has to be tabled in the House, and there should be, then it should be, after it has been tabled, thereafter it should be followed by the executive undertakings. After the executive undertakings have been made, it is where then that the plenary staff will refer that as the resolutions of the House to the Speaker, and Speaker will do two things. Speaker's office will do two things. The first issue will be to refer the matter to the petitions committee, to the PO, for PO to write back to the petitioners and say that the committee set on a particular date after it has met with you, it has met with the department, it has tabled the report, its report, it can attach the report if it is required, then the members of the executive have made the following undertakings. Now, this particular petition or these undertakings have been further referred to the committee that is responsible or competent enough to deal with that particular department. So at all that particular time, it is intended that the communities or the petitioners are being informed of step by step. Yes, there may be delays based on the complexity of the petition itself, and at times based on the issue that it may border between the provincial department and the department's competence, which we don't have a control on the side of the national department's competence. But all that particular period. So Member Maseko is talking about the petition of 2014. The petitions, directives, and the executive undertakings directives were only adopted and signed in 2021, and there were 80 seats there then. So now we've got a total different way of how we're supposed to deal with the particular petitions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stamela. I'm going to give to the speaker and then Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I just want to make the point that as per standing rules, that it's not necessarily just the petitions committee that can receive petitions, but I think it's important to highlight that any or every committee may receive and consider petitions, and it can be as part of the work of a committee. So when a committee receives the petitions, they can execute it as per the program of the committee. So that and committee reports are also tabled and also referred to the executive. So I just thought it's important to make that point so that we don't forget, or we don't just look at it from a petitions committee perspective, but the powers and functions as per the constitution and per the rules is also allocated to the work of committees.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Speaker. Honourable Maseko.
I think that maybe the question that I wanted to ask in short is, now if it's been referred to the committee, the petitions is going to close that issue after it gets to be referred to the committee, or they're going to wait for the outcome from the outcome of the committee, the standing committee. Let's say if it's in human settlement, are you going to, as a petition committee, going to wait for the outcomes then that you can close that issue in your program, or how is it going to work? If you can help me there, just to have an understanding.
Thank you very much, Member Maseko. Mr. Stemele.
The committee that the undertakings were referred to, then we'll have to run with a ball man from there.
Honourable Maseko.
So it gets closed. Yeah, sorry. Chair.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it's closed from the petitions. You are done from the petitions. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I
And
see
what
the
do you
second
say to the petitioner?
member Maseko. Let us not engage into a dialogue. Do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you.
Member
Thank you. I think
you can proceed with your follow-up question, member.
yeah, I said to you, I was answered half. I want to know the petition committee. What do they say to the petitioner? We refer to the standing committee, or what does the petition committee say? As a chair, and I'm chairing that committee, what do I say after I refer it? Do I write to the petitioner to say we are done with it? Or what is the status from the petitioners? What is it that they have to write?
Thank you very much, member. Mr. Adams, I saw your hand, or should I rather divert this one to Mr. Stamele? Or you want to answer on this?
Partly, yes, Chairperson. Mr. Stamele would assist with the rest of the response. Chairperson, Honourable Maseko, I understood the question, and I think in the follow-up from Honourable Maseko, that became clearer. It's about how does the institution communicate with the petitioner, so that the petitioner, doesn't matter in which committee the petition is being attended to, so that the petitioner is aware of how the institution is dealing with the petition that has been lodged. I think that is how I understood the question from Honourable Maseko, the initial follow-up question. Chairperson, in a response to that, Chairperson, it would be the administrative support and the component parliamentary support services, the Directorate Parliamentary Support Services, to, based on the directive, to ensure that the petitioner is kept abreast of what is the process when they acknowledge receipt of the petition, what is the process that the petition will follow. If there's a change to that process, I would like to think that we will all agree that the petitioner would also then need to be updated as to that change, so that when the matter is resolved, the petitioner has been taken step by step in terms of the process that was followed, but the petitioner also receives an outcome, and the petitioner can feel that the matter has been attended to. Sometimes, Chairperson and honourable members, the challenge is the communication and taking the petitioner along in terms of the process, rather than the outcome that is finally communicated to the petitioner. Chairperson, I don't know if Mr. Stimele has anything to add to that, and as part of the response to Honourable Maseko's last follow-up question. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Stimele, anything to add?
I've got nothing to add, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Maseko, you happy that we conclude on that note? I assume that silence is a yes. Mr. Adams, we can go over to the next presentation or the briefing.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the next item on the agenda is 2.4, how PEO plans to enhance public participation in the House and the committee work. Mr. Retief and Mr. Keswa will attend to that question in their response. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Who's taking the lead? You may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm just waiting for the presentation to come up. Okay, Chairperson, I think everyone should be able to see it now.
I can confirm. Thank you, Mr. Retief.
Thank you, Chairperson. So this presentation deals with the steps that the Public Education and Outreach section has taken over the last financial year and this financial year to enhance the participation of the public, both in the House sittings and committee meetings. So firstly, we have concluded an MOU with the Department of Local Government, where we are utilizing community development workers. And the way that we are doing that is that they are assisting with the dissemination of information for public hearings and public engagements. They are assisting with identifying stakeholders, targeted stakeholders. They're also assisting with coordinating transport, so getting people to pick up points, and then making sure that the people are there on the right time, etc., etc. And then they've also been invaluable in assisting with sourcing municipal venues. And then the CDWs also assist with disseminating the invitations to these public hearings to members of the public. Then in terms of the strategic departments, we have the two-song centres. There are 22 two-song centres in the Western Cape and 7 satellite service centres. 2 of our PEO officials now serve on the two-song Centre Stakeholder Forum, and this is a multi-stakeholder forum that involves various government departments, and they meet on a regular basis. And it offers an opportunity for PEO to network with their colleagues around the province, but also provides a platform to share information with these two-song worker reps about upcoming public engagement initiatives and so on, and then also to get the support of those two-song centre reps. The support usually consists of these two-song centres displaying the public notices for these public hearings on their notice boards, and then also the public participation managers from the municipalities also assist with disseminating this information in their geographical areas. Then we have also concluded 2 strategic partnerships with the Commission for Gender Equality and the School of Government at the University of the Western Cape. So in terms of the CGE, the work that is done with them is mainly on issues where there is gender sensitivity. So there would be coordination on the activities around education and outreach, and then also ensuring that where we require participation from those kinds of organizations or stakeholders, the CGE will assist in identifying those and making sure that we have that kind of representation. The School of Government at UWC, the arrangement with them is facilitating educational workshops that further enhance the understanding of what public participation is and how our parliamentary processes work. And they also assist in identifying groups, particularly, and to do workshops and so on the role and function of the WCPP, SOPA, and what the importance of SOPA is, and the budget process to the general public. Then PEO also conducts preparatory workshops, usually in the first quarter of the calendar year, not the financial year, so between January and March each year. The PEO section will facilitate workshops, and these workshops are focused primarily on SONA, SOPA, and then the provincial budget. And in respect of SOPA, they will then also target communities and stakeholders in the geographical areas when we do have a remote SOPA, like we did in Vredendal, Veldrif. Then the focus will be on stakeholders in that West Coast area. And the importance of these is creating awareness around the importance of these events, and then just encouraging citizen participation. In terms of the media, for every public hearing or series of public hearings, the Stakeholder Management and Communication Services section will will draw up a media campaign. And that media campaign, the aim of that is to garner interest in the public hearings. And this process will start a week or 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks in advance of the start of the series of meetings. And this will include sending out alerts and invitations to both print and broadcast media. And for the broadcast media, we often also get the chairpersons to record sound bites in as many languages as possible, which are sent to the radio stations. Sometimes these radio stations will also invite the chairperson to do a call-in interview. The communication with both print and broadcast media is often geographically targeted. So if we know that there's going to be a public hearing in the garden route, then we will particularly target the publications and the radio stations in those areas. We will make telephone contact with them to try and ensure that they have representativity at the meetings, and in respect of the radio stations and so on, that that they'll be using the sound bites that we send them, or that they will then invite the chairperson to do a call-in or something like that. Then we also use all of our social media channels, and on the homepage of our website, we have a carousel at the top of the page, and we will always put a notification over there, and it will then click through to the parliamentary calendar, where there will be more information about the venue and any of the supporting documentation and so on. And then more recently, that we started last year, is we started doing paid for social media advertising campaigns on Facebook. And the analytics that we've received from these campaigns have been very promising, where for not very much money, that we are receiving a very wide audience, and we hope that this is contributing to the increased participation that we are seeing in meetings. As members are maybe aware, we have this stakeholder database that was completed last year, and this stakeholder database is an ongoing project. So there are Temba, I speak under correction, but I think that we have about 1,500 stakeholders recorded on the database at the moment, and that number of stakeholders is increasing all the time. So at every single public hearing where stakeholders sign the register, when we get back to the office, those details are loaded up to the stakeholder database. And it has information about what the field of interest is, where the stakeholder is located, and so on. So we can then do targeting of stakeholders based on either on interest or based on geographical area, etc. And then this system is supported by a bulk SMS facility. And to date, 1,500 SMSs have been sent out to stakeholders. I just wish to clarify that these are SMSs that were sent to targeted stakeholders. So it's not just mass SMSs that are going out to thousands and thousands of stakeholders in the province. It is people that have been targeted on the system. So if it's something about housing, then they would send those bulk SMSs only to the stakeholders that have registered housing as an interest. And as I mentioned, this database is expanding all the time. Then something that the PO section has also started doing more recently is that they have been coordinating and arranging for transport of stakeholders to public hearings. This is dependent on the available budget, but so far PO has targeted approximately 500 participants during the course of the public hearings on the expropriation bill and the housing consumer protection bill. And you can see there in Garden Route, we had 87 people attending the expropriation hearings, 102 attending the housing consumer protection bill. And if we look at the number of invitations that were sent out and the number of people that attended, there's a very close correlation. So it seems as though we're getting quite a good response from those invitations when transport is provided. And then we've spent approximately 135,000 Rand so far in this financial year on this transportation. When requested, the PEO section will also conduct pre-hearing workshops. So if we know that there is going to be a hearing in a certain area on a specific topic, and if the request is made by the committee, then the PEO section will go ahead of that committee by a week or so, and they will identify the stakeholders that would be attending the public hearing, and we'll present them with a copy of the bill. There would be a presentation from the department and research documentation if it's required. And then they will do a workshop with the participants to explain to them what the process is of making submissions. They would take them through a template, et cetera, and guide them in that process. Again, something that is reasonably recent is the relationship that has been built up with the political parties' constituency offices around the province. So PEO has compiled a database of all these political party constituency and regional offices, and then liaises with these support staff in these offices by getting them to assist with disseminating information to stakeholders, sending out invitations, and so on. And then also asking them to assist with identifying people who require additional support. So would that be for transport, for drawing up submissions, etc. Then something that is quite important, and that that the PO section has been doing for some years, is the annual reporting process. So there are educational sessions that are held and focus on the process. And the idea with these workshops is to create awareness of how important this reporting process is and the role of the public, to promote good governance accountability, and then also to get an idea of the interest in attending the actual committee meetings where these annual reports are presented, and then coordinating the provision of transport for those people who wish to attend those sessions. And then lastly, the PEO section does entertain requests from members for stakeholders from their constituencies generally to come to the WCPP for an educational workshop. And the PEO section, when they receive these inquiries, they try to arrange these workshops that they take place on a sitting day. So then they do the educational workshop in the morning. We then give them a bit of lunch, and then in the afternoon they'll be able to observe the sitting of the House. And since the start of this financial year, we've received 3 requests for such workshops from members. Chairperson, that is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Retief. Mr. Keswa.
Thank you so much, Chair. Just to add on what on James's presentation, I just want to stress, Chair, that most of this presentation has put us to where we are at this point. And where we are at this point is a point of improvement in terms of public participation. We've seen improvement in terms of people attending. For example, as far back as last year in the Children's Amendments Bill, a lot of people did come. And of course, now with the Expropriation Bill and the Housing Consumer Protection Bill, the attendance have risen compared maybe to the past. Of people attending the public participation at the WCPP. So it's a work in progress. This is just part of what we do to improve, and we'll keep on improving to get as much people attending as we possibly can to ensure that everything goes well and becomes a success, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keswa. Honorable members, any questions? I see Member Maseko. You may proceed.
Chair, thank you very much. And also I must thank the Mr. Ratif and the PO on the bill that we've been doing the presentation. Really, it has made a difference, and it has shown that what is happening now, it sort of adds value in the public hearing. And there are, I agree with Mr. Keswa, there are some of the issues that we have to tweak to maybe check if that also will be maximized. First thing is, here the support that we got, the awareness of the bill, yes. The question is to go and introduce the bill like Mr. Ratif has did in the presentation, that is another process that happens. I'm wondering if did that happen or not. Two, in the presentation, there's an agreement with local government for the CDWs. I think there are about 3 CDWs, one when we're in Breda Valley, one when we're in Saldanha, that they were saying that they were never told about us coming. They would have maximized to make sure that people do come. So I know communication has been there, but the people that are supposed to activate as they receive the communication, and I mean the CDW, if I have to be specific, how does the department or WCPP make sure that the CDWs we have in the agreement, they activate, and how do you check way in advance that they've got the information and something is happening before we get them? Just the simple way of, as we go, the law enforcement, they will do the report, they access our roads and give you the report before. Also on this one, to do something like that, to check if the information have reached the CDWs and what is it that they are doing, for the standing committee to know the expectations of what will be happening there, something like that. If it can be put in place to check if it will add value and that will be maximized. Another one, Chair, is the issue of the PO plans on to enhance public participation in the House and committee meetings. I think, Chair, sometimes I'll look on the YouTube on the sittings and you'll see there are only 5 people. So we are championing the public hearing, of which the public hearings also, my last question is going to be the sustainability of what we did on the expropriation. But on the sittings, to raise awareness, we have the sittings or the committee meetings. We still have to go to be innovative enough to say, how do we go about to make sure that WCPP raise that awareness of there is meetings that are happening, or there is a sitting that is happening. And I'm throwing it back to the PO and Mr. Ratif to say, what is it that they can do? Because if you look on the YouTube, it's embarrassing to have only about 5 people or 6 people, and we do have the sitting. But what PO, coming back, what PO is doing now on the expropriation, it was done, I think the last time last term on some of the committees, but sustainability became dololo. How are we going to make this as a standard procedure for each and every committee that is not the infrastructure and expropriation bill and housing consumer bill only? And question 2, will we be able to afford it? Because we have about 130 something for the transport only for the expropriation and the housing consumer. Are we going to be able to afford that from the PO? And if we are not going to afford that, how are we going to go about to sustain this good thing that you have implemented when coming to this public hearing of the expropriation and the housing consumer protection bill? Chair, thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ms. Seko. Perhaps just from my side, in terms of the comment made when it comes to public participation in the current issues in committees in relation to public hearings, I think that especially the 2 issues mentioned in terms of the Bella Bill, the land and so forth, it's very emotive issues. So that would obviously arouse public interest and people wanting to attend those public outreaches. I'm just not quite sure, unless PO can convince me otherwise, that in terms of our internal strategy, that we were able to garner that amount of public interest when it comes to public participation. And what perhaps from your side are you doing otherwise in terms of strategizing, of making sure that that we get the maximum participation on whichever issue we engage with the various communities? That is the one thing. And then also in terms of workshops, I note that you say that the 3 requests from members has been met. How many workshops are pending? In which areas are those workshops? And is there a proactive approach by PEO that should members not ask, but especially where those shortcomings are in terms of people not showing much interest in the work of WCPP, that you proactively engage those communities, except from a member asking you to do so? If you can perhaps just answer on that as well. Thank you very much. Mr. Retief or Mr. Keswa, you can indicate who will take the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and remember all of them, but if I do forget, you can help me as well. Let me first start with the attendance of the sittings. I do agree there, Chair, that maybe we haven't done much to improve there, but I can tell you now that there is improvement also on the sittings as well now. Recently, we had Minister Mackenzie, who was in the chamber, and there was a team of participants that came to attend that particular sitting there, and those people there were over 20 sitting up there in the gallery. So we are improving. Like I did say earlier on, that it's a work in progress that we've embarked on. So that's the first one, we're improving there. Regarding committee meetings, yes, I agree there. We haven't really afforded people public participation to attend most of the committee meetings. So that's room for improvement that needs to happen there, Chair. Regarding the budget, then this one has been a sore issue. Mr. Adams, you want to come in, or must I wait for you? Chair, through you, Chair.
Mr. Adams,
No,
will
Mr.
you add
Keswa
on,
can
or can Mr.
continue?
Keswa continue?
Oh, I can continue. Okay.
Mr. Keswa can continue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Regarding the budget, then to carry forward with the momentum, this has been a sore point for both, I would say, public engagement and also committees as well, because there have been issues in terms of, like the member was saying now, how are we going to sustain this? Because there are so many bills coming, there's so much public participation that needs to happen. So that has been an issue, but I can just say for now, we've been progressing like this, and I hope we'll progress like this till the end of term. I do not have an answer on this one. I think it will depend on the budget as we move on. Regarding the workshops, Chair, we have an ops plan. The ops plan is the one that determines the workshops that we have. with the participants. So in the workshops, everything is determined in this particular quarter, which region are we targeting, etc. So we've already taken the initiative that you're talking about by targeting the region that will be attending, let's say in a particular quarter. But of course, because we cannot be in a position to understand everything going on in the Western Cape. So if there's something that we're missing, then that's where we appreciate members' contribution to say, why don't you do an educational workshop with these particular people in this particular area? And then we try and put that in our program as well. But we're very flexible, like I keep on saying. The other questions I'm forgetting now, Chair, I need assistance, please.
Temba, the issue of CDWs saying that they're not receiving the information.
Yeah. When we send out information for public participation, obviously it will go to only those CDWs that are relevant for that particular area. So we'll not inform everybody. We'll just inform those that are available. But also even then, we liaise with the senior within the CDWs. And the senior then is the one that will choose the CDWs that are going to assist us in terms of stakeholder identification, in terms of transport routes, also maybe in terms of advising on the venue for that particular public participation event that we have to do. So it can happen that maybe in this particular instance, those CWs were not informed by their senior because of some reason that I cannot be able to understand why. But we try and ensure that via their senior, then is the one who assists us on that. And also because, Chair, these CDWs are not working for us. They're not working for the WCPP. They are supporting us. So whatever assistance we receive, whatever body count that we receive from them, we just become grateful because they also already have their own duty that they are dealing with. Any question that you remember, James? Another one?
Chairperson, if I can attend to the issue of budget and funding.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Thank you, Mr. Keswa. You may proceed, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think we would all understand that the 2023-2024 financial year is a bit of a different year, given that the next provincial and national elections is expected to happen in 2024. Therefore, the processing of legislation may pick up a bit towards the end of the current financial year. With that in mind, Chairperson, we have anticipated an additional 1.5 million to be made available specifically for the processing of legislation, so that we could have that amount invested additional to the current 2023-2024 voted budget for committees, in order for committees then to process both provincial and national legislation coming from the NCOP. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Retief.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, just a comment on the last question that you posed about how we get people to participate in public hearings on matters that are not as emotive as the housing issue and the expropriation and so on. And I think that I mean, there's no quick solution to that, but I think that things like our stakeholder database, as that database grows, and we get more stakeholders registered on that database, if we expand the sort of areas of interest, topics of interest, and so on, that we will be able to use that stakeholder database to better use when communicating with people about you know, the public or the committee, the other kinds of public hearings that are happening, and similarly the issue of sort of ordinary committee meetings that take place here, not necessarily public hearings, and house sittings. But then just to make mention on that latter point on the issue of committee meetings and house sittings. We know that the standing committees have taken a slightly different approach to public hearings and trying to have these public hearings at times when the general public is not necessarily at work and consumed with other kinds of responsibilities that many people are during sort of office hours, is that our sittings of the House and our ordinary committee meetings do take place during those times, so their availability would not be as great. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Retief. I see Member Maseko.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, just a short one. I want to find out the issue of, and I'm going to make an example with the present issue of the P going to Port.
Member Maseko, I will ask you to
problem.
please,
I don't know, it's
Member Maseko, I will please ask you to start afresh. Member Maseko, can you hear me?
Okay. Can you hear me now clearly?
Can hear you clearly, thank you. If you can please ask, start your question afresh. Thank you.
I can hear you. I can hear you now.
You may proceed, member.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was asking the issue of primary PO going to a constituency, an example, Porterville Primary. When you choose a place, and then is it a way of involving like the constituency? Because constitutionally, yes, you know where we are. For us as the members in that constituency to also be aware and maybe be involved, or if not being involved, just for a mere fact of helping to vet the school they are going to, or giving more information to be a productive session as that happens. I'm making an example about Porterville because I went there to go and introduce myself, and the complaints there was that the primary school, they have a problem of kids using drugs. That the teachers patrol the fence to make sure that the kids don't jump the fence to go and get the drugs. So how do we align and vet the areas or the schools as you go through, making sure that as you talk to those kids, you talk to the issues that are problematic from those areas, using the members of the legislature to do that? Is there a possibility, or is it a challenge for PO to involve the constituency heads or the members of the legislature for that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Maseko. And then Mr. Kiswell, Mr. Retief. I do apologize if I missed out on the question of pending workshops and in which areas. You may proceed with the answering. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. I must say also that I really struggled to hear the member there. But if I'm not answering well, then she can just tell me if maybe I didn't get all the question that she was asking. But I think she was asking, is it possible to get assistance for a member to attend as well when we go to the constituency areas? I'm not sure, member, you can repeat, please. The network is so weak. I really didn't get it all what you were asking. James, I see you. Through your chair, there's James.
As Chairperson, if I may, Timber, I think the question is about engaging with the constituency heads when looking at venues for workshops and so on. So when making a selection of a school in a specific town, to maybe just engage with constituency heads before the time to try and ascertain what the particular issues are in that town or at that school, so that the workshops are then also sort of suitably targeted, if I can put it that way. If I understood Member Maseko correctly.
I can't hear James at all at this point.
Correct, Mr. Retief. Correct, as well as the involvement. I believe if I understood Member Maseko correctly, that specific constituency head and Member of Parliament are working within that community. So how are they, you know, being made part of that outreach within that specific community?
So Chairperson, I think maybe Temba's also having some issues with his connection. So if I can then just respond and say that is definitely something that we can discuss in the PE Directorate. I don't think that there's a problem with that at all.
Mr. Retief, thank you so much. In terms of pending workshops and where they will be held, PEO specific outreaches?
There is an operational plan. I think that is one of the documents that was sent through. And it has the program of workshops that is going to be taking place for the remainder of the financial year. Okay,
I've got
thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
That answers my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Colleagues,
Thank you,
I think that deals with that presentation. Mr. Titus, Mr. Kezwa, you wanted to add? Mr. Kezwa?
Chair, I don't know if this is still relevant. I was struggling to really hear, but we also put all our workshops, our activities, the public education workshops on programming. So they are normally there for each and every month. People can just go there and see where we'll be going. It's our way also of garnering all the support that we can receive from the members within the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kezwa. That deals with your part of today's agenda. Mr. Titus, are we now with you?
Chairperson?
Mr. Adams?
Apologies, Chairperson. Before Mr. Titus starts, if you could maybe just guide us with regards to time, Chairperson. I see it's already 11:25, and there are still two matters that needs to be attended to on the agenda. Please, Chairperson.
We will have to get through our business, and we're supposed to finish up at 12. So how long is your presentation, Mr. Titus? Will you be able to summarize? But we do need members to allow members to ask questions. And if the time does not allow, we can always post the questions in writing. How much time do you need, Mr. Titus?
Probably about 20 minutes, Chair. I'm not too sure is supposed to take, Chair.
Okay, so members have received
I'll
the
run through it
documentation
quickly.
before. Members have received the documentation before this meeting, prior to this meeting. So it would not require you to read every single slide, but if you can perhaps just take us through it, say in about 10 minutes, will that be possible?
Chairperson, without any further ado, I think the question very clear around the implementation and management of the enabling allowance against FAMPLA. So while the enabling allowance is not necessarily reflected in FAMPLA per se, the use of allowances are discussed in Schedule 2, which is the Code of Ethics for the Executive. I'll touch on that a little bit later, but I think these of the Act, we're specifically referring to Act 10 of 2009 and the amendment, Act 34 of 20 for implementation in 2015 is what we are making the links with. So we're just having a very close look. with regard to how the enabling allowances tie into the FAMPLA arena. So all rules pertaining to financial management in of public funds are obviously within the spirit of the Act. These principles are implemented in the WCPP, and it's the principles of good governance. Right from the onset, Chair, the intent in the preamble speaks of setting high standards for financial ethics. That is for both MPPs, members of parliament and staff, promoting efficient economic and effective use of resources. And I think the third aspect deals with being transparent, accountable, having sound management of revenue, expenditure, assets and liabilities of the provincial legislatures. Chapter 2 of FAMPLA speaks to two parts. Part 2 looks to the executive authority and its and the EA's obligations, which is 1, accountable to Parliament for sound financial management, and 2, the links to the Code of Ethics in Schedule 2, which deals with how members of the executive should be acting as per the Code of Ethics in Schedule 2. Part 3 deals with the accounting officer's obligations. This is just the actual parts of the chapter 2. Specifically referring to executive authority and how that is applicable to both national parliament as well as the provinces. I'll speak a little bit later about various caveats that have been raised in the specifically pertaining to regulations that are supposed to be published by the Speaker of the National Parliament, but I'll speak to that a little bit later. So just in terms of the accounting officer's obligations, and I think this is fairly important because the accounting officer is required and must ensure that the resources of Parliament is
Mr. Titus, we are losing you there at times.
Efficiently, economically transparent, that records are held and kept of our financial affairs. The chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Titus, your sound is a bit distorted. We lose you at times.
Okay, I'll try my best, Chair. I'm not going to go through all of the aspects of the accounting officer's obligations. Suffice to say that from 7A to G Act, the accounting officer is required to put measures in place to avoid unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure and losses to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. And as per Section 69, the accounting officer will be held responsible in his person if reasonable steps had not been taken to prevent fruitless combating of corrupt activity. Am I still audible, Chair?
We can hear you, yes, Mr. Titus.
Chairperson, am I still audible?
Yes. Member Maseko.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just one moment. Member Maseko.
Chair, I don't know if it's my side or can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
I don't know if it's my side, but I can't hear Mr. Titus. The bits and pieces, I don't know if he's doing justice to the presentation and the engagement. Maybe we because connection is bad today. It's really bad that maybe we can carry over the agenda to deal with it because it's important that we interrogate it clearly, nicely. So if I can ask that, maybe it will work for us to stop where we are to get another date for that because connection is really, really bad.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Member Maseko. I've just engaged the procedural office as well, that we rather have POC meetings in person from now on. We need to do our work effectively, and it becomes difficult if the system or the weather, or whatever reason it is, that we are not able to efficiently conduct our business online. Member Lekker.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think indeed we are at a stage where we are on the receiving end, and it's really disturbing because I'm trying also to get to what exactly we're dealing with, but because we have challenges with our connectivity, it's difficult for me to gather. This has been coming from a long time. Even Member Maseko, I would get bits and pieces of what she was saying. I would agree that indeed we must stop from where we are and find another suitable date to do justice, to deal with the remainder of the documents that we would have wanted to deliberate on. And therefore, Chair, I second what Member Maseko is saying, but also link that with your proposal to say we must do our next meeting in person. Probably it would be nice if Mr. Davids can check in the programming, in the program itself, as to which other day can we find sooner to deal with the outstanding business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Lecker. Mr. Davids.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, members and officials. Just to respond on what Honourable Lecker has indicated, Chairperson, I have this morning already, when we started the meeting, liaised with the Parliamentary Programme Officer to request another date sometime in August for the committee to have the in-committee meeting. The closed meeting, as per the request of the speaker and the secretary, to have the closed meeting to discuss on the to engage the committee on this cyber attack issue, and then Chairperson, and then we can just then perhaps as a recommendation from my side, perhaps just then have these other outstanding two issues also put into that meeting, Chairperson, sometime in August, Chairperson, and then just conclude with these outstanding matters at that meeting, Chair.
It seems like we do reach concurrence on that. Member Lecker, you wanted to add something?
No, Chair. I wanted to lower my hand, so I've been struggling. My apologies.
Thank you very much. Mr. Davids. Thank you so much, Member Lecker. Mr. Davids, any business of the committee that we that cannot stand over?
Yes, Chairperson, it is basically, Chair, if you do excuse the officials, Chair, then we can just do the POC quarterly report, which needs to be ATC'd, and just the committee minutes, Chairperson, so that I can just get those minutes with those resolutions off to the office of the Speaker and the Secretary as soon as possible, just for actioning and follow-up, Chair.
Sure. Thank you very much. At this point, I wish to say thank you to all the officials. And as mentioned, we will just ask a date soonest in terms of programming to have this meetings rather in person from now on, because we don't know what might come up with the system or the weather or whatever the case may be that enables us not to effectively carry out our work. So thank you so much, and we will then, the outstanding issues will be dealt with at our next meeting, which will be communicated as soon as possible. So the officials are now excused. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, members. Bye-bye.
Chairperson, also on that matter, Chairperson, Mr. Ali of PMG was also waiting in the meeting, Chair. I will just direct another letter from your hand to PMG, because they were number 2.6 on the agenda item for today, Chair. Just to request if he can just have his session at the next meeting somewhere in August, Chairperson, if that's fine with you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Is Mr. Ali still on?
Chair, no, I don't see him in the meeting, Chair,
Okay.
but he was earlier, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just communicate with him, also extending our apologies for him not being able to address us this
Yes.
morning. Yes, also allow me to thank the speaker also for his presence and his inputs this morning. Can we proceed with the report?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm just sharing that for the committee chair. Chair, as you know, and members, these are just our normal, this is just the normal report, Chairperson. I just want to call this one up quickly. There we go, Chair. Chair, so this is just our normal report that we do after each and every engagement with WCPP, Chair. This report needs to be adopted by the committee chair, and thereafter, Chair, I will send it to you for signature, and then it will be ATC, Chairperson, as per the auditing requirements and the SOP of WCPP, Chair. Chair, would you like to read the contents and just get a second hearing from the members, Chair?
I can certainly do so. Thank you, Mr. Davids. I hope I am audible.
Yes, Chair, you are.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Report of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee, having considered the quarterly financial and performance information for the fourth quarterly performance report and financial statements for the 2022-2023 financial year from January until March this year, reports as follows. The Parliamentary Oversight Committee report that it convened on today, the 21st of June 2023, and has concluded its deliberations on the quarterly financial and performance information for the fourth quarter of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament for the 2022-2023 financial year, which was referred to it in terms of Standing Rule 89.1 of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. The committee interrogated the WCPP in terms of the information that was tabled and referred to the committee as legislated under Section 172A of the Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act 2009 FAMPLA. In accordance with Section 3766 and 66(2) of the FAMPLA, the WCPP reported to the committee that no instructions were issued during the fourth quarter of the 2022-2023 financial year for WCPP. The committee considered and adopted this report, or may I at this point ask, this report is then duly tabled to the committee for adoption. Are we in agreement, members? Member Maseko?
Chair, I propose that we adopt the report as presented.
Thank you very much for the proposal. A seconder? Can we have a seconder? I saw a Member Bosman.
Yes,
thank you so
Member
much.
Bosman, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then the committee considered and adopted this report at our meeting today on the 21st of June 2023.
Thank you, Chairperson. And now, Chair, it is just for our minutes, Chairperson. Let me just share that, Chair. I've circulated the minutes last night, Chairperson, to all of the members, Chair. I just want to get those minutes up and running, Chair. There we go, Chair. Chairperson, just to take yourself and the members through it, Chair, it's our minutes of what we had last month, Chairperson. And then I just wanted to put it on here, Chair, that for noting there were two alternate members to our meeting. It was Member Bartman and Member Syed was also in the meeting, Chair. And Chair, it was basically just from what our agenda item was, Chairperson. And it was basically just yeah, this is just what our normal minutes look like, Chair, just where we engage, where the committee engage, and which member of or which official engaged the committee, Chairperson. But Chairperson, if we, and then there were some documents that was also considered and adopted, Chair, but Chair, the most important part of our minutes are the resolutions and actions, Chair. Just for some requests for information, RFIs. there was a request from the committee to for a WCPP to provide its user asset management plans, the UMs, because there was a concern about the precinct of WCPP and there were some safety issues as well. So all of those issues, Chairperson, are contained in the UMP of WCPP because it must submit the UM to the Department of Infrastructure, because the Department of Infrastructure maintains the building of WCPP, Chair. So the members indicated that that they would like to have the UM to see what was supplied to the Department of Infrastructure in terms of maintenance of this building and from the 4th floor up to the 7th floor, Chairperson. Chair, and then there was just our normal, there was a cyber attack issued, just a report from that. But also, Chair, on this one, the committee requested that the institution brief them, and this will happen sometime in August, Chair. And then that was 4.1 and 4.2. That's the cyber attack, and then there's the members guide policy. Member Bartman brought up on behalf of Member Osman about the payments, etc., for the members. And Member Lekker also alluded to that this morning, Chairperson. And then there's also the members' allowances. There was also the traveling and the SNT policy. And then as well as the live demonstration of the digitalization of house sitting, Chair. As I discussed it with you last week, Chair, the institution indicated to me that there were some issues with regards to having that live demonstration on the WCPP website, Chair. So we will just put it on the agenda program up until the institution can actually do that live demonstration, Chairperson. And then the translation services that was alluded to by Member Lekker and by some other members as well in our last meeting, Chairperson. Chair, that is it, Chair, in terms of this resolution, Chair, not to undermine the committee, Chair, but I have sent this draft to the institution just to say start preparing your paperwork. Once the committee has agreed to these resolutions and to the minutes, a letter will be sent to them, Chair, with the official adopted minutes, Chairperson, to the institution for their follow-up and submitting to the committee timeously, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davids. Colleagues, you have checked the document. Mr. Davids, is there? We should be able to receive the minutes a bit in advance.
Yes, Chair.
Will that be possible going forward?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. I will, Chair. From now onwards, Chair, as soon as the vetting is done, Chair, by my senior, I will immediately send it on to you and to the committee, Chairperson.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Member
Chair.
Lekker, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chair. Look, Chair, I really appreciate the good work that is done by Mr. Davids. But I think it's about time that I seriously express my dissatisfaction in terms of how the institution chooses to deal with the requests that is made by committees. Only yesterday that we received the document on functional enhancement, and it's quite a huge document of plus 240 something papers that we must go through at a short period of time. I want to seriously request that we get documents from the institution timeously, so that we're able to go through the documents and engage with the documents provided effectively. Because when we get these documents at a short space of time, it doesn't do justice, not only to us, but also to our supporting staff that is supposed to help us. So it's really too much of an inconvenience that we get documents at a later stage. And right now, with all those resolutions that we've made, it would be nice that we can get a change in terms of their cooperation, Chair. So that's my plea. I'm very pleased with what Mr. Dustin is doing, but the institution itself is not doing any justice to this.
Thank you very much, Member Lecker, and I am with you on this one. Mr. Davids, I think we should perhaps just make this request, and it's not unreasonable, but that we make it formal in terms of writing to the institution.
Yes, Chair.
So that it is recorded as such, that we would want documentation within a reasonable amount of time in order for members to have enough time to scrutinize and also to contribute constructively on the day of the meeting. So we will work on that communication. Thank you very much. Member Maseko.
Chair, thank you very much, which I echo with all of you about this, and to thank Mr. Davids about the report of the enhancement in Dondo that we have waited for quite some time to receive it, which is a very interesting information. But also, my little bit Chair, I don't know what's the right word, because the Platelanse and Namakwaland word is quite so nice, and I can't use it here. So the issue of the vetted information, Dustin, we get the track of all from the annual reports, there were information that we needed. If we can get tracking, develop a document that tracks the information that we need from WCPP, so that we can track also the timeframes of when do we get that will be appreciated. And through you, Chair, with your indulgence, because we end up now having the scenario like today that we were promised something, then boom, we come to the meeting today, they say, no, in fact, that is not going to happen because that is not how we operate. So it puts us in a very, like we are in a yo-yo scenarios if we need the information. But if we have the track that all the time, Dustin can share it with WCPP, also the accounting officer can now see that there are the information that it needs to be submitted, and also have the deadline for when to submit that. Then it will help us also that we have a very good working relationship in getting information that we need from WCPP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Davids, you've got that?
Yes, Chair. I've got it, Chair. So on the issue of Member Lecker, Chair, I will put it in the letter, Chair. For under the on the guise of this adopted minutes, Chairperson, of today, and under your hand, just a cover letter, just to indicate this minutes was, can we please have this minutes by a certain date, but also about the concern of the committee in terms of the supply of certain information to the committee in a timeless manner, Chair. So I will definitely put that in such a letter, Chair, and then that track document as well, Chair. I will refine the Chairperson, just to indicate specifically for the request for information when it was submitted to me and when it was sent on to the POC membership, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davids. Having said that, colleagues, in terms of the minutes, can we move for adoption?
I move that we adopt, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Maseko. Can we have a seconder? Member Lecker.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you very much. I got the feeling that you wanted to second the minutes. Colleagues, the minutes of the POC meeting of the 24th of May are then duly adopted. Mr. Davids, are there any other committee business that we need to deal with?
Chair, there's no other committee business, Chair. I will, after the, as I've indicated, Chair, that the parliamentary program offer, I have communicated to her during the POC meeting via WhatsApp, and she indicated that she will give me a date, Chair, and a time, and then I will communicate that to you, Chair, once established, and then we will put it on an agenda, Chair, and send it out to the POC membership and to the institution timeously, hopefully still this week, Chair, for them to prepare all of the information and the documents, etc., Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davids. Much thanks and appreciation to you also for your wonderful assistance and support in this committee. Thank you so much to all our support staff, honourable members. We then conclude our meeting. Our meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Cupcake.
Thank you very much, member. Have a lovely day further.